Dear students, welcome to our science episodes. Today we are going to discuss asexual reproduction. Now let's talk about sexual and asexual reproduction. Living organisms are characterized by their ability to reproduce. They reproduce to produce new individuals of the same kind, which ensures the continuity of species and life on Earth. In this process, the genetic traits are passed from parents to offspring. We will start with asexual reproduction. It needs only one parent or single-celled living organism, so only one parent is needed for asexual reproduction, or just one cell, such as budding in yeasts, bacteria, and binary fission in amoeba. So it also occurs in multicellular organisms like sea stars, hydra, and mushrooms. It produces genetically identical cells like the parent cell. If you look at this picture, this is amoeba, a single-celled organism, unicellular organism. It reproduces by binary fission. One cell is divided, giving two daughter cells. These two daughter cells are identical to the parent cell. This hydra is a sea creature. It lives underwater, and they are invertebrates. Hydra reproduce asexually by budding, so a new bud starts to appear, and then it gives a new hydra. Either budding or binary fission in amoeba, both methods of asexual reproduction will produce genetically identical cells like the parent. Of course, asexual reproduction occurs by mitosis because it does not require special systems or structures in the living organisms. This is the binary fission, where the nucleus divides by mitosis, and then the cell itself, giving two new individuals. What happened to the parent cell? This is the parent cell. What will happen to the parent cell? It will disappear, because this parent cell will divide into two, forming two new daughter cells, and the parent will disappear. It occurs in unicellular organisms such as amoeba, paramecium, euglena, and simple algae and bacteria. So, why the parent cell disappears after binary fission? Yes, this is because I said that the parent cell will divide, giving two separate cells, and it will disappear. Budding. This is budding. When a bud or a small part starts to grow out of the parent body, and then chains of buds, and then producing a new organism. It occurs in yeasts and some multicellular organisms such as hydra and sponges. I showed it to you before. The bud emerges as a lateral bulge in the cell. This is the bud. And the cell nucleus divide by mitosis. One remains in the parent cell, and the other one will migrate to the bud. The bud grows and remains connected to the parent cell until it's fully grown. Then it separates to form a colony or a new organism. So what is the difference between budding and the bud? This is the example of hydra. And this is asexual reproduction by budding. So what is the difference between budding and the bud? The budding is the method of asexual reproduction. When a bud develops from the parent's body, and the bud is a lateral bulge. This is a bud. The bud is a lateral bulge from the original body of the parent, which will grow by time, forming a separate new organism. And of course, the new organism is typically identical and similar to the parent. Another method of asexual reproduction is regeneration. It is the ability of an animal to compensate their missing part. And the living organism can reproduce from only a part, not from a whole parent. Starfish arms could be regenerated and give out a complete animal if they just contain a part of the central disc of the animal. So suppose this sea star is cut and become like this. If this part is having just a part from the central disc, so the sea star can regenerate the green part, giving a complete animal. So what do you think? What will happen if the sea star loses one of its arms? It will compensate the missing arm by mitotic division, or what we call regeneration asexual reproduction. This question is for you. If the number of chromosomes in a starfish mother cell is 2n, whatever the number is, how many chromosomes are there in the cells resulted by regeneration and why? Please remember that regeneration is a form of asexual reproduction, and asexual reproduction takes place by mitosis, cell division, which results in formation of cells with the same number of chromosomes as the parents. So the resulting cell will, of course, have 2n like the mother cell. Another question: why regeneration is not considered to be a sexual reproduction in all conditions? Take a second to think, and the answer is because sometimes the regeneration takes place just to compensate the missing part, not for producing a new organism or an offspring. Another way of asexual reproduction is the sporogony, or spore propagation. It is common in some fungi. This is a bread fungi, mold, mushroom, and some algae. These fungi have special organs called sporangia, and the single is sporangium. This is the sporangium. It's a special organ which produces spores. They have large number of spores, and when the wall will rupture, the spores will be propagated. When spores find a suitable environment, they start growing to give out a new organism. This is called sporogony. Vegetative reproduction. It's when plants reproduce vegetatively without seeds, just by a bud. When the big plant or the parent plant is growing a new bud from the body of the parent, and this bud starts to grow, producing another new plant. This is called vegetative reproduction without formation of seeds. It's a form of asexual reproduction which takes place by mitotic cell division. So now let's guess the scientific term. The ability of some animals to compensate the missing parts. Regeneration. A biological process where one parent cell produces new individuals having identical genetic traits. And please notice a biological process. This is asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction through development of lateral buds from the parent organism, and this is called budding. Please use the following pictures to identify the organism and type of asexual reproduction. So this is which organism in the picture and which type of asexual reproduction. Notice one cell, unicellular organism, and it divides to give two identical daughter cells. Yes, this is a bacteria or maybe an amoeba, and this is binary fission. Here is a unicellular organism and formation of a bud, yeast, budding. The organism is yeast and the type of reproduction of asexual reproduction is budding. This is a piece of bread and this is bread mold or a type of fungi and having sporangium and spores are propagated. This is bread mold and they reproduce by sporogony. In this question, in which organism and type of reproduction the parent cell disappears? Of course, the parent cell will disappear in the binary fission because the original parent will divide, giving two daughter cells. Now let's watch a video about asexual reproduction.
Do you agree that every living thing needs two parents to be created? This is actually incorrect. Whilst we are more familiar with sexual reproduction involving two parents, asexual reproduction only needs one parent. All the offspring are clones. They are genetically identical to one another and to their parent. You may already know that many plants use asexual reproduction, like spider plants. But did you know that bacteria reproduce asexually in a process called binary fission? And even some animals use asexual reproduction. It is much less common, but is seen in some simple ones like hydra, aphids, and starfish. In fact, aphids can produce 600 billion offspring in one season by using asexual reproduction. But how does this work? Asexual reproduction does not involve sex cells or fertilization. Only one parent is involved, and so there is no fusion of gametes and no mixing of genetic information. The offspring are all clones. Sexual reproduction occurs using normal cell division known as mitosis. To learn all about this, watch our video on mitosis. In plants, it can happen in a number of different ways. Potatoes and daffodils, for example, develop underground food storage organs that the following year will detach and develop into new plants. The spider plant produces plantlets along branches that are clones, as do strawberries on runners. Hydra are multicellular animals. They use budding to reproduce asexually. Little buds grow on the outside of the parent and then break off to form separate individuals. Starfish can either split in half, in which each half develops new arms to form a full starfish, or if a starfish loses an arm, it will regrow that arm and the lost arm will over time develop further arms itself, turning into a complete starfish. Bacteria have the simplest process of all. They just divide as seen in mitosis to form two identical individuals. One major advantage of asexual reproduction is that populations can increase rapidly, as we saw with the 600 billion aphid offspring. They don't have to waste time and energy finding a mate. Also, by being clones, they can exploit a suitable habitat quickly. They fill the niches, making it harder for predators and competitors to invade. However, it also comes with disadvantages. As everyone is a clone, there is no genetic variation. If the climate or selection pressures change, then the population will be much slower to adapt, as there is no diversity. By being identical, the population is best suited to only that one habitat, and all have the same vulnerability to disease. The same traits also mean the same weaknesses. If a predator or disease adapts to kill one individual, then they can take out the entire population, resulting in extinction. So genetic variation has a lot of merits. Interestingly, some organisms can combine both sexual and asexual reproduction depending on the circumstances. Malarial parasites reproduce asexually in the human host, but sexually in the mosquito. Many fungi reproduce asexually by spores, but also reproduce sexually to give variation. Many plants produce seeds sexually, but also reproduce asexually by means of runners, such as the strawberry plant, or bulb division, such as daffodils. And even the aphids alternate between sexual and asexual reproduction, asexually in the spring and summer, and then sexually in the winter, as the eggs can survive the cold better. So there we have asexual reproduction. It only requires one parent, meaning population can grow very quickly, and everyone is a clone of one another. It is more commonly seen in plants and bacteria, but can also occur in simple animals like starfish, aphids, and hydra.
Dear students, thank you for watching and see you later in other science episodes.